For once, I've got good news to share with you, Flosstube. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. It is Saturday, May 11th, and I think I might have made the step from being someone who is actively sick to someone who just has some allergy symptoms. I am so happy about that. I don't know what to do with myself except try to catch up on all the things that haven't gotten done over the past 2 months. We got sick. It took forever. I think one of the boys brought home 3 different bugs during this whole exciting slog, but I have a voice. I can talk mostly without coughing. I am full of hope and joy, and I've got things to show you. We are 4.5 months into 2024, and I have not had a single finish this year until now. Look what I did. This is Window with Sparrow. It is a Riola's kit I started for Stitch Mania. I don't know when. I got fabric gridded, got just a little bit of this top finial done, and then it was another day, time to start another project, so I put it aside, and then I didn't know why I'd started it in the first place. And a couple of months ago, at 3 in the morning when all these ideas hit, I went, I could stitch on that thing with the blue window. And I picked it up, and I started stitching, and I kept stitching. And during the almost 2 months that I have been sick, I have been stitching on this, and it is done. I thought the back stitching was going to be a whole lot more tedious than it was. But because you're like outlining stuff in a window, or there's a little bit around the flowers, it was all sensible back stitching that had a point. And the back stitching makes this thing pop. I still don't know quite what possessed me to stitch it. I still don't know. I say I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but most of my projects wind up in my under the bed box. There is no planning the future of these things. I am smitten with this. I am so glad I stitched it. I am still not clear on how I stitched something this big this fast with everything else going on. It is 10 count, which explains some, but not all of it. Look at the folds in the window shades. This is almost my favorite new thing. I've had a whole stack of things that were done except for the back stitching. There is the blue window, there is Blue Jays, there is Down Memory Lane. And I thought I was going to do them in order, an hour at a time, but the window was more fun. This morning, this is why this video is late today, I pulled out Blue Jays and I told myself I was going to finish back stitching this thing. Because if I could do all this back stitching, I could do all this back stitching. That was the plan. This was tedious. The back stitching makes it pop. It gives the birds the expression on their face and the outlining they need, and you need all these little branches, and it would never have made sense to leave the back stitching off. However, I am not claiming for an instant that I enjoyed the back stitching. Necessary evil. Necessary unpleasantness. It's an overstatement to call back stitching evil. So when I picked this up in tail end of December, I had stitched the background behind this bird and a tiny bit of its tail. All of this and almost all of this is 2024 stitching. So I'm feeling a little bit more accomplished right now than I was previously. I've still got Pink House. I thought I might have it done soon, but back stitching took precedence, and honestly, I would rather have these done than this because these are easier to tuck into a project bag and never pull back out. And as much as I love this little house, if I tucked it into a project bag and didn't pull it back out, it'd be fine. So we went to the thrift shop. Someone had donated a ton of dimensions whips. This was one of the thrift shops where you can get away with opening the Ziploc bags and poking around inside, and I could not figure out these were projects I had never seen before. One of them had it was a mailbox and a spider web, and It was $5 for what were pieces of a working copy. I couldn't tell for sure if the entire original pattern was even in there. The cover with the image was not there. I don't understand why they wanted as much as they did for partially stitched cross-stitch projects. Would you donate unfinished whips to the thrift store? I'm curious what the thought process was. And of course, the immediate conclusion we always jump to is maybe somebody passed away. If they'd been cheaper, I might have bought them just for the pattern and then gone home and tried to see if I could find an image that went with it, but they weren't cheap. This was cheap. This is Geisha. Look at all of the little scenes on her robes. This is something else. I know I don't like Design Works kits. I don't care. She is neat. And I think they have DMC numbers. So if I was really excited, I could swap it out. We know I'm not going to do that. Beads. I'm not planning on starting this one now, but for $1.99, it was coming home with me. And when I took it up to the checkout counter, the lady gave me a little lecture about, you do realize how much work that's going to be, don't you? I have never had someone caution me about how much work a cross-stitch project was going to be at all, let alone in a thrift store. I'm just puzzled, but I adore her. I'm happy. I like the idea of stitching her. It's not going to be soon, but I like the possibility. And I collect cross-stitch kits. If I can get them for $1 or $2, I don't worry too much about when I'm going to stitch it, because as long as I don't start her and make a mess of her, I can always eventually pass her on to someone else. I got a package in the mail from the folks at David and Charles. So I have books that I will be sharing soon in upcoming videos now that I can talk. I am enamored with my cross-stitch doll and what is this? The Ultimate Cross-Stitch Pet Collection. These are going to be fun, and hopefully I have some time to play with them this afternoon. At a different thrift store, I picked this up for $1.99, and I have plans for it. I don't buy a lot of yarn in the thrift stores because price-wise, it doesn't tend to be a great bargain. Totally depends on the store, totally depends on what the yarn it is, but my local stores lately, they want really high prices for really old yarn. This is the remains of 4 skeins of Red Heart Super Saver Pink Camo. I don't know why. This told me it wants to be a shawl, and I can picture that shawl in my head clear as day. Who am I to argue with the thrift store yarn? So I have been telling myself for about 2 weeks I'm going to cast on and get going with this, and I have not summoned up the energy to do it, but maybe today. I am so glad to be feeling better. There are not words to describe how glad I am to be feeling better. Thank you for watching. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. I am still dealing with all the chaos of everything that has not gotten done recently, but I've got plans. Hopefully life cooperates and I can share those plans with you soon.